We are becoming new humans, higher dimensional beings, actually shifting our frequency, our vibration, our consciousness. And so as we're doing this, we're learning how to be part of that collective with Yeshua, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, with the Palladians, with the Arcturians, with the Andromedans, with the Lyrans, with our ancestors, with ascended masters. I mean, this is a vast, like incomprehensible even understanding of the spaces of source. Okay? And you have to think about this for just a second. This will really trip us all out. Ready? And those names I named are what humans talk about. There are many other species, beings, dimensions, realities, timelines, parallels, all these other spaces, and they probably have other beings they're talking about that are part of Source. Does this make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So as we're moving closer to this higher dimensional space of ourselves and we're allowing this expansion of ourselves, that's another reason why we're asking ourselves to look at it with less compartmentalization. We're asking ourselves to look at it with more of that collective space, that unity consciousness space, because that's a part of the vibration we're grounding in and anchoring in as we're expanding.
To a Broaderlands podcast.
The opinions expressed on Broaderlands podcasts are those of the guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of the host or Broaderlands podcast. Heyo, Garris, welcome to Broaderlands podcast. What an honor to have you on.
Oh, thank you, Holy One. Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you for coming on. I look forward to this conversation. I look forward to learning from you, so it's an honor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we get started, maybe we could share a little bit about who you are and what you do, the kind of work you do.
Okay. A little bit about that. That's like a hard call on something that's quantum understanding in a sense. So, yes. All right. Right off the bat, I should explain that my voice may fluctuate. My breath may fluctuate. I tend to say yes sometimes at different volumes and intensities. And yes, I sometimes jerk a little bit, but everything's fine. I'm fine. It's this increase of energy. So when I talk to you and to others and I hold spaces where I share, yes, I am holding a direct alignment with what we would call the higher mind and the higher heart, the higher self. I also like to allow the space to say we're connecting in with the we. Okay. And for me, in my teachings with Acasma Quantum Energy, that's the work I do, Acasma Quantum Energy. Yes. Yes, we have found a way to reconnect with ourselves, to assist us as we ascend, to assist us as we awaken. And so for me personally, before I knew any of these names and understandings, if you will, yes, I did my own spiritual awakening. I had my journey of healing my health and all these things that were my wake-up calls, you know what I mean? And then I moved into a space where my world was changing very quickly, as in I was starting to see things happening in my life and around me that we would maybe call paranormal or supernatural or extraordinary, something like that. And so I just started paying attention, listening, trusting, leaning in, and things just kept opening up. And I had a connection point with what I know and call the we. I do believe they may have connections to variations of higher consciousness. So the angelics and the Palladians, the Arcturians, I kind of like, I represent a space available to humanity where we're going to allow ourselves to see our unity with them, our unity consciousness more, and less boxing up of this is what this one said, and this is what that one said, and more about this is what we say. Is this making sense at all?
Yeah, makes a
Okay,
lot of
great.
sense.
Okay, so as this was coming in 2017, it upticked, okay? In 2017, yes, it upticked, and I started to have communications with these incredible beings that it sometimes would happen in what it would seem like a meditative state, sometimes in an out-of-body state, but they would come in to a visual space of me, if you will. Like I could see them, but I wasn't looking with my physical eyes, and they were shut. It was like an inner sight, seeing them come into my view. Yes, and then, and it really fascinating. I don't think I've ever shared this anywhere yet. They would kind of look at me first. So this may be a relative point for many out there, your viewers that have had experiential spaces as well. But they kind of do this thing where they kind of, you know what I mean? Like they're looking at you, right? And then you're like, okay. And you're trying to remain in an open space of, love and not fear, right? This is trippy. Okay. But this communication started coming in about this shift that was coming to humans. Yes. And that the work I was doing and would be opening up to more was going to help with grounding frequencies. That was very important that got given, the understanding got given to us. That humans needed these grounding frequencies in order to move through this process of ascension. Because you're carrying a lot more energy in your being as you're ascending. Because your energy, my energy, yes, is our consciousness. Does this make sense? Okay, so it has a vibration, it has a frequency, and as you change what you know, as you expand what you know, you change the way you vibrate, you change the way you flow. And so what I do, Acasma Quantum Energy, helps people activate that. Yes, sorry for yelling, and helps them ground. Does this make sense? Ground that new space of them. So this all started happening with me individually. Yes. And then in 2020, you cannot make this up. Am I right? Like of all the years, 2020, I just knew they gave me direct information that I needed to take this to humanity. So the world was shutting down and I'm like learning how to go on Zoom and meet people and share what I understand as helpful. And everything just kept opening up from there. Now the work I do is taught as a course. It's a book. We have a family of light community. We have a grid. We do a grid every single month. We haven't missed 1 month since 2020. We do a grid on Zoom together. And now we're in 7 languages. And we're international. And we have people from all over the world who are, feeling a resonance with this space and allowing this expansion of themselves. I think the people that find my work and feel an alignment, it's most of them are here to be like an anchor point for the shift, if that makes sense, to be grounding points for the shift, to help actually facilitate the shift, if you will, for the collective to tap into more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
All right, I talked a long time. I'm sorry. That was a big answer.
One question that popped up was, okay, you're communicating with these other beings, right? What are they telling you about the new human and the new earth what's going on in today's world? Everyone's so concerned where there's a lot of fear, a lot of separation, chaos. But I also understand and hope, without the mud, there's no lotus flower. Yeah. Is there a collective awakening happening?
Yes, exactly. All that is unfolding is part of how you get to the new earth. You don't get to the new earth without understanding yourself in your old space, your old earth. You have to see all of the spaces of you, if that makes sense. And you have to decide if you're going to continue to be those vibrations or if you're going to change any of them. That's what's happening. We've been given the biggest reflection, the greatest, strongest mirror, if you will, ever, to say, here's who you are, humans. Is this who you want to be? You know, if you're going to continue in this alignment, it's going to continue with this space. But we have this shift happening, and it's causing these changes to be available. They're available. Okay. Everybody's tapping in at a different timing and a different increment, because everybody's consciousness is at a different space of itself. Now, you said is so powerful, because you said, you know, there's a lot of fear, right? There's a lot of fear with all these changes and all these spaces we're seeing. When I first started doing this work in 2020, bringing it to the world, every client I would do work with, because I go into the quantum field in a Acasma Quantum Energy session, I connect in remote distance session, if you will. I find the person in the field. Okay. Yeah. And then I work with them and I reconnect their root center, because most humans are not connected. They can't ground their energy. They can't ground their healings. They can't hold on to this spaces of themselves, because they're not, anchored. So I do a lot of work in that session space. But what happened is, when I would connect in 2020, every single time I get messages for the clients as well, the same message kept coming through, the same message, whether I was picking it up from the clients' past loved ones, ancestors, star lineage, angels, whatever it was, because everybody's different. But the message was, humans need to get out of their head and they need to get into their heart. That's what they kept saying over and over again. And they said that basically we were running off of cycled programs of fear. Yes. And we were being given the opportunity to allow ourselves to know that we are more than anything we've ever imagined. We are more than anything we see unfolding. We are more. And this is a PowerPoint. This shifts everything. This is the new human. I teach a class called The New Human. I have since 2020. And it's all about living from the knowing that you, divine, holy one, you are eternal, divine consciousness having a now. You're having a now. You're having a now, but you have had many nows before this. You're probably eons and eons old, and I am as well. And we will have many nows after this. And it's not to belittle anything anybody's going through. It's not to demean it. It's not to say that spaces of life aren't big. I understand, right? I acknowledge that with everyone, but it is saying that you are bigger. You are bigger than any space you have ever navigated and ever will navigate. Yes, and you are safe. That's big too. You are safe right now. No matter what space you're in, you say, oh, that's crazy. This lady's crazy. Where'd he find her? But honestly, you are eternal. I am eternal. All the viewers, all those who are watching this, listening to this, you are eternal, having a now. The more you lean into that space of yourself, you don't have to leave your human behind. That's not what this is about. You don't have to condemn your feelings or lock up your humanness. What you are being given the opportunity to do, what I'm being given the opportunity to do, is to bring in balance. It's balancing us by allowing ourselves to remember who we are. So if we bring in the understanding of ourselves as more, as eternal, as divine, having nows, now our now just got shifted by that understanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know what I love about you is you talk about our remembrance. We got to remember, and even in the Gnostic text, they talk about our forgetfulness. Even back in those days, what are we trying to remember, and who are we really, and what is God?
Oh, just that. Okay.
Sorry, I caught myself in
No.
the middle of the questions.
I love
The
it.
questions.
I love
Not
it.
just a question.
I love it. It's great. Okay, so let's start with the first one. So was the first one, what are we trying to remember? Or who are we?
Yes.
Okay, what are we trying to remember? Okay, so that for me, for what I teach and for where I'm at right now in my understanding, what we're trying to remember is that we are those eternal beings of light, that we are source. We are a variation point having a now. So I like to say as well, yes, that, yes, we are a space of the one within the many. Okay? Okay, so first off, I think that's the key of remembrance for us. That would be most empowering. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't increments or pockets of this that could be fascinating. Like, oh, we could remember that we seeded the planet. We could remember that we're architects of Earth. We could remember that our Earth was originally set up to be this, but it got sidetracked or hijacked or whatever else. I mean, those are fascinating spaces of us that we could also remember. But what I tend to do with people is take them back to their origination point. Because once you hit origination point and you really ground yourself in that understanding of your being, now that helps you as you navigate all those other spaces of remembrance. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So that was the first one. What was the other one?
Well, I think you kind of answered both first two questions in one.
Okay.
The other one is, what is God? How would you define God or source?
Okay, I love this one. So for me, it's a vibrational space of existence. It's not any person. It's not any star being. It's not any deity, I guess you would say. It's an actual, yes, vibrational space. So for me, it's love. But it's a love that's not a love that we understand. It's a love that's beyond human comprehension. I would say, when people have near-death experiences, there's a lot of these NDE videos out there, right? And there's usually commonalities. You have certain groups tend to experience the same ways, right? But then there's this overriding commonality that you see a lot. And that is that no matter what their religious background or not religious, and they just, were, spiritual people or just everyday, whatever it is, they tend to most of the time say, it was so beautiful. I didn't know if I wanted to come back. I felt so loved. I felt so safe. I felt so home. That to me is God. That vibration. Yes, that is a space of our origin. That's us. That's who we are, right? And that's what we're remembering or allowing ourselves to remember now as we're expanding. And as human consciousness is expanding, which is what's happening, and Earth's consciousness is expanding, all consciousness is expanding. This is across the board because all the spaces are all back at that origination point. They're just variations of. Yes. So we can say it's the shift of humanity, but at the same time, it's the shift of the Palladians, it's the shift of the Octurians, it's the shift of the angelics, it's the shift of Yeshua, it's the shift of all consciousness. The rock out in the yard or the tree by the lake or whatever it is, all consciousness is connected. So when one space shifts, all spaces shift to some degree. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense because we're all interconnected.
Yes. Yes.
There may be skeptics out there, which I'm sure there is, no problem. But how would you invite them to listen to this conversation?
If you're skeptical, how would you listen to this conversation? Well, you could start off with just allowing it as a possibility. Just a possibility. It doesn't have to be definite. It doesn't have to be the only way. It doesn't have to be all there ever will be. It can just be a possibility. And really, what happens when we allow possibility, period, in any spaces of our lives, is we're just opening up our flow. So what does that do? That means whoever's opening up that space of themselves to the possibility is opening up, yes, the flow of all possibility in every area of their life, the possibility to be healthier, the possibility to have better relationships, the possibility to be wealthier or more abundant in any area of one's life, the possibility to have peace and freedom. And all these beautiful spaces come from possibility. So if you found your way to this space possibly, and you think, these people, they're crazy, or whatever, oh, you need to believe in this and only this, or whatever it is. If you can just say that you can allow the possibility, yes, it's opening up the flow, period. And I think that's a blessing. It doesn't hurt to listen. One of the things I did on my journey was I realized how closed-minded I was. I had a closed mind, and I had a set of belief structures that if you didn't believe exactly what I believed, you were wrong and I was right. And I felt like, I had to save everybody or something because I knew right the way. And then I realized how limited my view was. I wasn't allowing any possibilities, right? And so I really do mean it when I say that. I mean it with love, because it took a lot for me to open my mind and open my heart. It was scary in certain spaces to begin to trust something outside of what my norm was. Does that make sense? And that's a lot of what's happening for a lot of humans, is they're leaving spaces they've always known and ways they've always done things, the person they've always been. And now all of a sudden, people in their lives are changing, or their jobs are changing, or their world around them in some way or in all ways is changing. And that can be scary for some people, a lot of people. But with what I bring, what I would lay at your feet, and a lot of other people bring this, look at his page. Anyone following this site right now, I'm going to tell you, you want to understand how vast Source is? Check out Broader Lens IG page. It's so easy to see it right then and there. Look at all these beautiful people he brings in for a Broader Lens. Perfect name. Source is so vast. We are spaces of Source. You flip through that page, Broader Lens, and you say, oh, this guy believes this. This lady believes this. This woman, blah, blah, blah. You can see what I'm saying? These are variation points of the divine. And you're doing a fantastic job, if I will lay that at your feet quickly here. You're doing a fantastic job of giving space for these variation points to offer, yes, the possibilities that they bring. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Because sometimes I even ask myself, why am I doing all this? I feel like the heart knows, but the mind fights with itself,
Yes.
But so I really appreciate that.
Good. You deserve it. You're doing really big work. Thank you for it. Thank you.
And thank you. You talk to different beings, you channel different beings. How do they look at Source? Do they give you any information, or and what type of beings are you channeling? There's Palladians, there's Yeshua, there's the Holy Spirit. There's so many. I don't know if you've tapped into Krishna. There's just so many different types of beings out there, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so first off, what's really helpful for us to do when we're talking about channeling is to understand that there's a new level of channeling available to humans. And I tend to do this, okay? So, yes, what it is, and not that others aren't doing it. There are a lot of people doing it, but I want to make sure we give this information because it will help expand the understanding and the consciousness. So this type of channeling that I do, I'm present. Like I'm not, I'm not checking out and they're checking in and then I'm coming back. I'm present the whole time it's happening. And for the most part, sometimes I can get to going and I'm amazed at how fast it's all coming out of my mouth. But for the most part, it's like, I'm one with what I'm saying. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I process from the understanding of unity consciousness. So I think that's why this happens this way, because part of what I'm here to help with is people to understand that space of themselves, This is a space of you. It's not just a space of me. I'm not like special and able to do this. I'm just one of the ones that came out doing it that's here to tell other people they can do it too. But when I work and I share information, most of the time I don't try to get in my head about it, about who it is, but I'll have a vibe or a feeling like this is Yeshua. There's usually emotion attached to it for me, where I can feel a sense of love that is a signature that kind of goes with the being. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so then sometimes I'll feel a feminine presence, and I'll understand it's Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene or both of them. They're very prominent in my work. They're in my book, as is Yeshua. They help with healing a lot of the older, spaces of like religious trauma that we've seen on our planet. Palladian energy. Yes, the Palladian message. Very clear. People always want me to identify these messengers with every message, and I keep getting redirected to say, this is the we. And like I talked about in the very beginning. And so I tend not to make content, because I do share on YouTube and TikTok and IG, and even when I did the Conscious Life Expo and I did the workshop and the lecture, I tried to explain it this way as well. And it also opens a lot of doors for everyone who's receiving, because there's people that are connecting with Andromedans, and there's people that are connecting with Archangel Michael, and there's people that are connecting with Yeshua. And, so when I'm sharing and it's coming from the we, it's like an umbrella over these spaces of us, if you will. Okay. And here's another reason why I've been asked to do it this way. Because we're becoming higher dimensional beings. We are becoming new humans, higher dimensional beings, actually shifting our frequency, our vibration, our consciousness. And so as we're doing this, we're learning how to be part of that collective with Yeshua, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, with the Palladians, with the Arcturians, with the Andromedans, with the Lyrans, with our ancestors, with ascended masters. I mean, this is a vast, like incomprehensible even understanding of the spaces of source. Okay. And you have to think about this for just a second. This will really trip us all out. Ready? And those names I named are what humans talk about. There are many other species, beings, dimensions, realities, timelines, parallels, all these other spaces, and they probably have other beings they're talking about that are part of Source. Does this make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So as we're moving closer to this higher dimensional space of ourselves, and we're allowing this expansion of ourselves, that's another reason why we're asking ourselves to look at it with less compartmentalization. We're asking ourselves to look at it with more of that collective space, that unity consciousness space, because that's a part of the vibration we're grounding in and anchoring in as we're expanding.
Thank you. I know you mentioned about having a light team. Do we all have a light team on our side helping to assist us for ascension? And could you expand on that for us?
You do. I love to be able to say that. You do, you do, you do. And what's happening is humans are activating these spaces of themselves, their energy, that is bringing in more clarity. So that means you're going to be able to start picking up on your team more and more. First, it might come by messages like you look at the clock and you see 11:11 and you go, oh my God, I love it, 11:11. Or you get an email and it comes in at 3:33 p.m. or something like that. And so those are messages from your light team. Those are messages from universe that you are in an alignment where you are listening more. You are allowing more. You are connecting in more, and they can connect in with you because of that allowing. So everyone has a light team. Now, for every single individual space of consciousness in human form is going to register their light team based on their belief structure. So if you're raised in a certain religion, most likely your light team will reflect to you or come into you or be felt by you as the beings in your religion. So angels, if you're Christian, I don't know all the other religions to know what they're like in the Native American culture. Great Spirit is what I believe they understand as source space, as Great Spirit and their connection with the earth, and then all the energies of the beautiful spaces of consciousness within the trees and the waters and everything. It's all interconnected. So their light team is going to be reflective of their beliefs. Your light team is going to be reflective of your beliefs. And here's the most beautiful part about it. As you expand, the reflection you're working with of how you understand your light team, see your light team, know your light team, that can change as well. What do I mean? Okay, from day one of this human life, I was raised in a fundamental Christian home. And I'm very grateful for that. And I mean, when I say raised in it, like I was a pastor at one point and had people coming in for services, and I baptized people, married people, everything. So Jesus was like literally, my mother said it was the first word I ever said. She used to carry me around the house and show me pictures on the wall of all the family. And she'd say, Dada, sister, whatever. And she had a picture of Jesus and she'd say, Jesus. So the first word I said, supposedly by my mother's mouth, I said, Jesus. So for me, my light team included Jesus and angels for a very, very, very long time, till I was in my late 40s. And then it shifted because I was shifting, and it expanded. Did Jesus leave? No. Did the angels leave? No. But all of a sudden I understood these other beings that were around me as well. And I would understand them as, I would say they are higher dimensional beings. We do call them star beings. Many people call them star beings. But, and this could be a whole nother show. My understanding of star beings is that we right now, humans right now, 2024, yes, are connecting more with higher dimensional star beings. Okay. So these beings, when they travel to connect with us, most of the time it's in like a orb form, like a light being form. Okay. And they can be collectives or they can be individuals as well. But there was a big space of humanity. So like many, 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 many years where we were dealing with lower dimensional star beings. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that can be found in a lot of other people's work. It's not my main thing that I talk about, but I understand it to some degree based on my own experience. But your light team is going to be reflective of your belief structure, which is so freeing and beautiful and empowering if you think about it. It doesn't mean angels are real and star beings are not. And it doesn't mean star beings are real and angels are not. It means, what do you believe? You personally create all your realities, whether it's your light team or your job or your relationship or your health or whatever. It's all coming from the energy signature we carry, our own vibration.
So we see reality through the screen of our thinking.
Yes, and that is why we need to get out of our heads and into our hearts, like the light beings told us in 2020. And that's what we've been doing. If you even notice it, right? The world shut down in 2020 and people started going out in nature because you couldn't go to the movies or you couldn't go to the theme park or to the mall or whatever. And people were in certain areas of the planet, they were allowed to go outside and all still. And so a lot of people went to parks or, went into outdoor events because it was a bit safer for what everybody was understanding. And people started reconnecting with nature. They started reconnecting with themselves. They were home more. If they had kids, they were connecting with their kids. If they had a spouse or a love or a partner, they were connecting with them more. There was an expansion going on, even in the middle of the shutdown, if you will. So as one space of us was shutting down, another space of us was opening up.
Wow.
And so all of this is interconnected. These light teams Okay, this is so awesome. I love this conversation. You're bringing a lot of goodness out of me. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
2019, I didn't know it was coming. Did you know what was coming in 2020? I didn't know, right? 2019, I kept hearing in my being, the light is here. It was like November. I have to laugh now because it's crazy. I kept hearing, the light is here. And I would be like, the light is here. And I wasn't doing this worldwide outreach yet. I was still coming around the corner to kind of moving into that space. And so I'm like, what does this mean? The light is here. And I had that fundamental Christian background in the past. So I started thinking, is it like the second coming? Is this like Jesus, the rapture, the tribulation and all? And then it was like, I understood that there was a space that had actually opened up, if you will. Yes, in connection with humanity, vibrationally, where, yes, a balance was coming that we did not have. We did not have it. We hadn't seen it. We hadn't lived with this balance before. We were very unbalanced, okay? And, yeah, that's because of the level of fear we were living in. So there was so much fear in all the spaces of humanity that first this balance had to kind of show up. And wow, like, can we now look with like, what do they say? Hindsight is 2020, which is funny because we're talking about 2020. But, I mean, I hear the light is here in 2019. We go around the corner, the world shuts down in 2020. And I'm on Zoom with people all over the world that are just feeling called to this space that I'm talking about. And they're activating remembrances and they're shifting their entire lives into these higher ways of living and being. And we're watching the new human be born before our very eyes. We are history that has been made and is still unfolding. But really, honestly, a lot of the work you're doing is, in my humble opinion, you're documenting the shift of an entire species.
Wow. Thank you. I appreciate it. Going back to, you brought up programs of fear. Was there a specific group that programmed these fears onto us?
Everybody wants that one answered.
Or was that just our unconscious collective,
All right, so here's the thing. Yes, there are groups involved that would have specific titles, and they would be in alignment with many of the timelines humans are experiencing. That's true. Okay, hold on, though. You got to follow me around the corner here. So you've got all these timelines that are playing out based on people's belief structures. You have commonalities that create a collective, a collective consciousness, right? A collective flow. So that might mean that you kind of can bunch some of those timelines together. A lot of people will experience this. A lot of people will experience that. Okay. In those understandings of us, there are names and identifications that could be given to those groups that hijacked and utilized humanity in certain ways. Okay. And it's kind of falling apart right now. And in that understanding, it's absolutely legit. It's real. It's part of how we're becoming the new space of ourselves. But with what we're asking of ourselves, yes. And the space of consciousness we're moving into is asking us to kind of pull ourselves up out of those timelines, those collective spaces that are identifying as human. And it's saying, remember to bring in that balance that you're an eternal soul who's being a human. Because the minute you do that, you now take yourself up a notch or two above identifying of those beings. And you look at those beings and you go, okay, that propelled humanity forward. They helped wake humanity up. It's weird, I know, because you don't want to think that you would say, it was good that we did this, but it's not really that you're saying it's good. I'm not condoning certain spaces, but like, I understand where these higher dimensional beings, to some extent, I do not understand it every point. I want that to be clear. I understand to some extent where these higher dimensional beings are coming from when they're looking at what happened, and they're not coming from fear. They're coming from love. They're coming from source space, understanding of itself. And so they're looking at what was done, and they're not needing to go to war. They're not needing to, I don't know, they're processing this a very different way because they're able to see that the greater outcome is available because of the journey. Now, I hope this is conveying okay. This is not an easy one to convey because some people feel like, they'll say, like, if God knew the devil was going to do this, this, and this, why would he have even created the devil? Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, knows everything. And then if you even go outside of religion and you just go to a spiritual context and you say, well, if source itself, is love, then why do you get these spaces that are so far from love? And the understanding and interpretation we have as humans. Yet all of these spaces, that are, giving us the vantage point and the opportunity of a reflection that is not love, is offering ourselves, the divine, remembrance at a new level. You going to a new level of yourself takes a push sometimes. And I go to Sedona every single year. You guys might be familiar with Sedona. And we climb the red rocks and we go up Cathedral Rock or Bell Rock. And I need a push sometimes. My husband comes with me. I take a group of people and we do this event there, and my husband has to give everybody a push sometimes to get them up certain points. But if you think about it, these spaces could be viewed that way. And I believe higher dimensional beings view them that way. They say these spaces that are darker, maybe denser, more difficult, more fear-based, they're the push that we can utilize to move us forward into a better space of being. It doesn't mean we condone. I want to make that clear. I don't condone trauma. I don't condone pain and suffering. But I also know that a very big part of becoming a new human is understanding that vastness of ourselves, so that when we experience spaces that are more difficult or denser or traumatic or anything like that, if we're tapping into that balance point, of being eternal within a now, we're not a victim. We're an orchestrator, we're a creator, we're a sovereign being. That is a very empowering understanding for one to hold. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I would love to pick your brain on your understanding on reincarnation and its purpose, because I believe we can bring in past life trauma, ancestral trauma, and so on. And I would love to get into a little bit of your work and how you help people heal and transcend those traumas.
So yes, we actually have a space of the Acasma Quantum Energy session itself. I talked about the root reconnection. We have another space called the soul reconnection. And it's actually a space that when we're doing the work in the field, all soul spaces belonging to the individual are able to be tapped into, and then the vibrational alignment of the now version is given the opportunity to reset itself in whatever increment is worth. I don't manipulate anybody. I don't go in and say, let me just fix you right up. You have to be able to be you when I get done with the session. So you have to be able to implement the energy, all right? With your words, your feelings, your thoughts, or it won't, it's just, it's not going to run. That's the way it runs through us. So if I go into the field in a session and I work with you, and then I'm helping you just by connecting you into you, basically, your sovereign eternal remembrance, then your higher self, your higher mind, your higher heart all click in, and they start recalibrating you. You start recalibrating you. I'm a conduit. I'm a bridge. I'm like a plug-in, and I hold the line, literally, the energy line, and you do you. And then I witness, so I can see it. And I have had many, many, many spaces with clients where I've seen their past lives. And, some of them are harder to share. And I'm very mindful of what I say because there's a way to say everything. And so I always, I use my discernment with how I relay what I see, because some of the spaces are pretty big. But what's happening is the human is the body, the being, the emotions, all those spaces of the human is housing the consciousness. Yes. And the consciousness is shifting. It's expanding, which is then the body catching up, recalibrating to hold itself. The soul spaces can return once the vibration hits a certain frequency in which they can realign. It's a healing frequency you create for the space of your soul to return to you. Okay? That's what we do in this work. And so, yes, I totally get the soul reconnection space understanding. I get the reincarnation space understanding. I've had a lot of clients reach out over the years, and they've said to me, especially those that go into this work and they start doing Acasma Quantum Energy sessions as a facilitator, and they'll say, this little boy came into the session, like his spirit, right? This was one of my first ones. Little boy came into the session, but I don't know what to do because I'm not working on him. I was working on the client, but this little boy showed up, and they were asking for more guidance. So I believe with the work we're doing is we're really moving into these multidimensional beings. We already are them, but we're remembering and we're moving into being. That means implementing. That means living as, right? Not when you're in meditation and then you turn it off, and you're at church and then you turn it off, or you're in a class and then you come back to life and you turn it off. No, being it every single breath. Okay. So that's what's happening to us. So these spaces where this woman was picking up on this little boy coming in, even though he wasn't what we would say alive. He wasn't in a physical form anymore, right? He was spirit. The soul reconnection can be done in the spirit realm because it's a soul space. Earth reconnection, you need to have feet that are actually on earth. That's that space I told you about first. But soul reconnection, that can happen for a soul space of a being who's outside of physical, because that's where souls are, if you will, outside of their life spaces until they incarnate. Reincarnation for me is many things, really. It's a confirmation of our vastness, because you have a 6-year-old child who can tell you everything that happened in Pearl Harbor and how they flew the plane and landed it and their family's names and all these things, or comes out and plays the piano at age 3 like they're 40. I mean, speaks another language that they've never been taught. We have so many confirmations coming in with these reincarnation spaces of our vastness, of how we are souls having continual experiential spaces, right? So I think that's involved. I think that's very helpful to humanity to be able to allow the possibility, like we talked about earlier. And I think that allows the expansion of the energies. This is a really important point that I do teach in Acasma that you touched on just a bit when you went into the question. Do we carry the energy of a past life into our now life? And I believe we do, because energy doesn't die in my book. It just keeps moving into the next space of being, and it just keeps expanding and shifting and changing. So in my book, and everybody can have a different book. I love it. Lots of books. That's great. But in my book, energy just keeps moving. So wherever I was before this life, that energy of that soul space is also available in my now. It can be prominent, and it can also be dormant. That's very important, because some people think it's all prominent, and that's not always the case. So why would I touch on that? Because your focus is your most powerful asset. What? What do I mean? Who you are right now is more important than anything you've ever been or ever will be, because this is what your focus, this is what your now, this is what your PowerPoint is. This, okay? Is it interesting and helpful at times to know other spaces of yourself that you've been, or maybe even will be? Because I think you can go both ways. Yes, absolutely. It's fun. It's fascinating. It can be helpful. But in my teachings, I like to remind people that if you're going to the origin point, as we talked about many times in this space, those other spaces are just additional spaces of us. But if you say, oh yeah, but if I could just understand that past life trauma, I could heal this problem in my life, right? If you can go to your origin, you can heal all of them in every life. Okay, so an origin is available to everybody because the origin's the same. Okay, you can have a different take on it, absolutely, 100%, but it's still going to reside at a space of yourself before any identification. So I like to also call it the I am, because if you think about it, if you say the words I am and you stop, you have not identified as anything. You have not grabbed hold of anything. You have not taken on any role, any title, or illness or claim at all, right? I am tired. I am healthy. I am sick. I am happy. I am sad. I am broke. I am rich. Okay, so if you say I am, you're talking about origin, because you haven't labeled it. You haven't added any soul space or experience onto the other side of I am. And in those words, in those 3 letters, yes, is an incredible, powerful connection to your origin, to everyone's origin. And I teach an I am breath space. Anybody can do it. I'm just going to give you a little bit right here. It's a full moon today. I love it. The day we're recording this, it's a full moon, guys. How cool is that, right? Okay. Peaked while we're on the call as well. But the I am breath, you just take a nice deep breath in, nice and slow. Nice and slow. I'm going to do one for you, okay? So you just breathe. You let your body drop, especially on your exhale. Nice inhale. Yes, let the body drop on the exhale. Yes. And now, yes, do it again. Nice inhale, but this time on your exhale, you're going to breathe out I am in your breath. So in. And you just let yourself feel that. You just breathe deeply inward. On your exhale, you let your breath speak. I am on the breath. And you just feel that. It's incredible. And what is happening in that moment? What is available in that moment? What is possible? To recognize your eternal soul flowing through your form. It's on your breath. When your breath's not in your form anymore, it's because your I am has moved on and it is doing another space of you. But when that breath is in that form, the I am, yes, is in the form.
I am the breath inside the breath. Breath means spirit.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question with the I am. What happens when you put something right in front of it or after it?
It is a powerful alignment. We don't realize how powerful it is, but we're starting to. We're starting to own our sovereignty and our creator abilities. So this is how we are leaving everything being done to us, like it's happening, to us, and we're starting to realize it's happening for us because it's a creation of ours. And it's a very empowering understanding. So when you say, I am love, you are actually anchoring, intending, aligning, connecting with the vibration of love through your form.
Hmm.
And it's really, really powerful to know what you're capable of. Okay. And people say, oh, that sounds fantastic, lady. But I've been saying I am rich for 3 days and I still can't pay my phone bill or whatever. So here's the thing. How long have you been living saying I'm broke? How long have you been reiterating and speaking and acting from, I don't have enough money, I am poor, or I am broke, or whatever it is? People forget how long they've been running programs, and then they go to implement a new one, and it may take a little bit more time because they're still giving themselves the opportunity to acknowledge they're done running the old. Your body, your being, everything is going to ask you in all different ways. It's going to ask you. Universe is going to ask you. God's going to ask you, whatever your belief structure is. Are you really this new vibration? Because the only way the vibrational alignment gets to stick and be is if you're sticking around for it. You're being it by the way you think, by the way you feel, by the way you speak, by the way you act. That's how it implements. And so the vibration has to be available that I am rich, or whatever you want to be. I am healthy. I am happy, whatever it is. It has to be available by you, by me, in order for it to reflect back.
Hmm. I come from the 12-step communities, right? In the 12-step program, you go to a meeting and people will say, I am an alcoholic.
Okay.
And people with a lot of time under their belt, I know it's meant to be helpful to the newcomer to help them identify with the problem.
Exactly.
But somewhere along the line in my journey, I've been sober for a pretty long time now, coming on 15 years. But I realized that wasn't healthy for me anymore. It was keeping me in a lower vibration by constantly identifying with an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. And conscious thoughts repeated often become subconscious thinking. And it's keeping me in a lower vibration. And the core of my being, my intuition said, it's not healthy for me. I have to let go of that belief. Even though the groupthink may be doing that. And I see people fighting with it all the time, even though they know it could be harmful for their soul journey. They still use it to try to help the newcomer. But that's just a custom that was established. But for me, and I don't tell anybody how to believe, but for me, I know to the core of my being that's not healthy because I'm claiming a lower vibration every time I say that. It's like saying I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner, I'm a sin. And the more I say it, the more power it has over me. And next you know, someone's relapsing or drinking again that are alcoholics by saying that stuff all the time. I just felt like it wasn't healthy for me. But if I try to say I am divine, everyone's going to look like you're crazy.
I know, but that is changing, and the only way it'll change is if we be the change, right?
Yeah.
So I love it. Thank you for stepping into that space of yourself, and thank you for carrying that space of alignment, that it could be a possibility, because the minute you carry this understanding, it's now available to others in our human collective that we are in a unity consciousness with, because you carry it. And I know what you mean about I am divine, and they may look at you funny. I say to everyone when I see them, hello, Holy One. It's my thing. I've said it since day one, and I never questioned it. I say, hello, Holy One. But I realize now, after years of doing this, why I do that. Because my work is built on helping people remember they are the Holy One who's having a now. They are the divine in form. Yes? And so my whole space is about that. So I had to get a giggle out of that when you said, if I say I am divine, they're going to think, what? But it's so important because it's an absolute energetic alignment. You're right. It's an energetic alignment. Another thing that could be happening is it's a way of being that we may be moving into a new way. You might even implement some type of program or teaching or book or whatever it is, do a video series, whatever, where there's maybe a tweak to this old way so that people like you that realize that's not an alignment for them, right? Maybe I don't know, if it doesn't resonate, that it's not your thing, somebody will do it. But you see what I'm saying? It's just every part of humanity is shifting, right? So this is another thing that I love to talk about as well, is like people read tarot, they read oracle cards, they like crystals in the spiritual community, right? Maybe there's spaces of what we consider like more everyday life with education or science or religion or medicine or whatever it is. I say every single space of humanity is being given the opportunity to change. It's all being given the opportunity to shift, so that, like, even, I know this seems a little weird maybe, but for whatever reason I need to say it. People that are really reliant on oracle decks, and I sell some. I have an Etsy shop where I actually sell decks I've created, but I didn't make books for them. And people say, oh, I need a book to tell me what it says. But my job and my understanding is to help you trust you more and listen to what you think it says based on your intuition, not what a book says, right? Okay. But reading oracle cards, even, think about this for a minute. Yes, oracle cards represent an energetic connection. Just like I am an alcoholic is an energetic connection. It is an alignment you are claiming the minute you speak it, right? You could tweak that to I am a healed alcoholic maybe, or something like that. I don't know. But oracle cards are these energetic alignments based on a particular card, right? To try to bring you a message. But even they had to change, because many of the messages over the years from all these spaces we've utilized for guidance have come in fear-based methods. And I feel like I am an alcoholic is even a fear-based method of understanding oneself, right? To not move out of that space because you're continually claiming that space, right? So I just like to think, like you, that all spaces of us are being given the opportunity to change. They're being given the opportunity to shift, because we are. So they're doing so as well.
You talked about multidimensional selves. We've talked about multidimensional lives, parallel lives. Can you help broaden our lens on that a little bit more for our listeners? What does that mean?
Again, my view. Multidimensional selves. So in the understanding of us as a space of source, having a now, we are then allowing ourselves to realize we are that origination point at the same time as we are the now. And that means that there are these other spaces of us that are these other variations that have been other nows, past lives, future lives. We use those terms, but in quantum understanding, as far as I understand it right now, they're all right now. They're all happening. Source is happening. The life you lived before this one is happening. This life is happening. The life you're going to have next is happening. I know, trippy. There's so much. Oh my goodness. I got enough going on trying to get through this one. Don't tell me, lady, I got all these other ones happening at the same time. But that's how vast we are. That's how big we are. That's how incomprehensible we are, really. So for me, multidimensional selves has to do with that space of us, like all the spaces we're being. And then also, like the work I do stuff where we go back into trauma spaces with people. I don't do it as much anymore because we haven't been needing it as much anymore. Thank you, consciousness. Thank you, collective, human collective. But you can go to any space of you. All right, so let's just give everybody an example real quick, okay? So say you had something happen to you that was hard, it was bad, it was traumatic, or it was just humiliating or it was painful or whatever. Okay. Everybody can have a different one. Can everybody just take a second, find your spot? Do you got a spot you can find? Yes. Okay. Now, what you can do with your multidimensional self, okay, is your now version goes back to the space, the memory. All you got to do is envision it. I can walk everybody in. Do you want me to walk everybody in or just talk about it?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath, nice and slow, nice and deep. Yes. Just allow the space. Keep allowing your breath, what feels right to you. But every time you exhale, let your body drop a little bit. Let your shoulders relax. Let your face relax. Yes. Just allow the space. Your team of light is around you. Yes. And you are this space of you moving back through time as you understand it to the memory, to the experience, and where there was this pain. And as yourself in this now, you are not the self it happened to. You are an expanded version of you. You know things now that you didn't know then. You understand things now that you didn't understand then. And so you, in this now version, come into that experience. For some, you're going in to see a child version of you. For some, you're going in to see a teenager or a young adult or yesterday. Just allow the space, please. Heart centers are opening right now. Just allow the space, please. Yes. Yes. And you're moving into this memory, to this experience as this higher self, to that memory space of you. And you're allowing yourself to, by your intuition, by your inner knowing, by the remembrance of what happened in that space, you're allowing yourself to change it, to bless it, to shift it in whatever way feels right to you. For some people, they stop it before it happens and they rewrite it. For other people, they come in and they hold the version of themselves that it happened to. And they tell them they're not alone and they're safe and they're loved and everything's going to be okay. Yes, that a new day is coming. And they're surrounded by love. You have to do it your way. Yes, and keep allowing your breath. Allow the space. Yes. Do what you feel led to do. Yes. Some of you see your team interjecting or helping. Just allow. You're actually moving energy right now in the field. This is your multidimensional selves. These are different spaces of you. Your light team from the past is present, and the light team you have now is present. And you're allowing this healing. You're allowing this love. You're allowing this connection space. No matter the time frame, no matter if it's yesterday or 40 years ago, allow yourself to give the self, the version of you in the past experience, allow yourself to give them your gratitude. The only reason you are where you are now is because they made it through that space, however they did. Yes, for some this is emotional, for some this is a really big space of acknowledgement. But you're saying thank you. You're saying I'm not leaving you here to walk alone. You're saying we moved this together. Yes, and that space of you is actually now realigning itself, if you will, resetting itself vibrationally into your soul flow. Yes, based on you coming in and offering your love to this space. Now, for some of you, there are others involved. People may have done things to you and or there could have been others involved. So what you're doing now is you're allowing the love of the divine I am to flow through the entire experiential space and to all connected. Yes. You say, I don't know that I want to send them love. Do you want to send yourself love? Do you want to be free to move on to the next space of you, to be whole, to be happy, to be well? Then that is why you would allow love to flow. It doesn't condone, but it does allow all to move on. Yes. And it comes from a space of sacred divine I am. Yes. Allow your breath. Yes. Allow your breath and allow the space. Read it, whatever you're picking up on. Some of you, your teams are sharing information with you. You're feeling sensations in your body. Some of you are activating your hands and your feet. I'm going to bless everybody's root lines right now so they hold this. So I'm just going to bless your root center at the base of your torso. Just allow your breath, please. I'm blessing the root center, the pelvic area. I'm blessing your legs. Now you have lines of light that go down your legs. Every human has them. You're like a tree. You have roots. You connect to the energy of the earth. This is expanding right now. Just breathe. Yes. Activating your feet and your root lines out your feet into the earth. This is new earth energy. This is grounding your higher consciousness, your remembrance. Just breathe. Yes, yes. This is the presence of Yeshua. This is what the teachings were. Yes, the understanding of higher consciousness. Yes. Just allow your breath, please. Oh, beautifully. Oh, you're anchoring this well. Beautifully done. Just breathe. Beautiful opening of the root. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Solar plexus is doing some clearing. Just allow your breath. Heart is opening. You guys are moving very quickly with this. Just allow the space, please. Really well done. Purple flooding in. Waves of purple light flooding in. Just let it bathe you. Just let the purple light bathe you, Holy One. Yane yakauai. Yane isawataoa. Poko aye yanakawa. Poko aye yanakawa. Just allow your breath, please. Yesane ataoaye. Yesane ataoaye. Yes, beautifully done, beautifully done. Beautiful anchoring. Root lines are reconnected. You may hold this space. You may allow this space of you to expand. Yes, activating more of you. All right, Holy Ones, just allow yourself to breathe as you're going to begin to bring your focus back. Just allow your breath. Allow yourself to hold the intention of anchoring all that you've done here. The love you've given to yourself. The love you've allowed. Yes. And you're just going to slowly bring the focus back. Yes, you might want to wiggle your fingers or your toes, move your body a little bit. But one thing I want you to do, this is a teaching in the work I do, is I want you to give yourself a moment, Holy One, to acknowledge the vibration. Whatever you focus on expands. That's how energy works. Whatever you focus on, you're going to see more of. So I want you to take a moment to focus, think, imagine, feel. The vibration is different. Look around your room, look at your hand, move your hand. Think about it, feel it, connect with it. I'm different. My vibration expanded. I hold more love. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to I'm going to ask you one more question, if you don't mind.
Okay.
One last question. In Cosma consciousness language, I would love for you to touch on what light language is. And you hear that in the churches, and a lot of times if you talk to someone like a family member, they would say, tongues is the correct way of doing things. Anyone else that does any type of light language, that's channeling the devil.
Mhm.
A lot of, I'm not talking about everybody, but, I know some family members that would say that.
I know some family members too. So here's my understanding, and it's in my book as well. The first time I ever spoke what I call light language now, and I only use that term because it fits the community I'm in, okay? But the first time I spoke a language outside of human dialect was speaking in tongues. I had come home from a church service at a Pentecostal church, and I had a wonderful time worshiping at that church service and praying, and I had laid hands on some people that asked me to do so, and they were slain in the spirit, where the people fall on the ground and, experience the spirit of the Lord. And so I had all that happening, and then I get in my car and I'm driving home, and all of a sudden I'm crying, and this language is flooding out of my mouth, and I'm feeling so much emotion, and it sounds a bit Hebrewish, if you will, but I got in my driveway and sat in my car, and it just flooded out of me. And I mean, I was like 20 some years old. That was early on, and I didn't know anything about light language. I had never heard of light language in my life. But so I called it speaking in tongues. So I totally get that. And I understand the teachings on interpretation and all of the ways in which it's looked at. And even that trickled over into spiritual world with light language, because I can remember early on in 2020 speaking light language and people saying, "Oh, I know what you said. You said blah, blah, blah," And I very well could have. But here's my understanding. Universe is so vast. The divine is so vast, incomprehensible. We are. That when light language is spoken, it is the language of the universe. It is about sound and tone and frequency. I think sometimes even more than it is about syllables or words or phrases, right? And I think that's why it's kind of coming in more and more, because we're at this space of ourselves where we're vibrationally available, because it is the vibration of the universe put into a dialect, if you will, that doesn't get read by the mind. We spoke earlier, we need to get out of the head and into the heart, right? And the heart hears the languages of light, or the speaking in tongues, or the soul messages, and it interprets based upon its own connection. So when I speak and 50 people are listening, that's 50 interpretations that can be happening, because each individual consciousness and heart has the opportunity to receive in its most optimal flow, in its most optimal alignment. Now, light language can move energy as well, which is very important, because a lot of your viewers probably are already having experiences with light language, whether they're drawn to it, they like listening to it in others, or whether they have it coming out of their own selves. It can also happen with your hands. So just like we sign languages with like American Sign Language and so forth, we can sign light. Okay, I'm signing light. Am I doing it right this minute, or am I making this up? This is me signing, okay? Yes, now we can hold certain positions with the hands as well, which is almost like writing it, because you're holding it, and then people look at the actual shape of the hands, and that's an antenna of the information. Okay, so it's amplified. But it moves energy, it clears spaces, it's us trusting ourselves, getting out of that fear-based trap that cycles, devil's going to get you, and all the ways in which we've said that, okay? Because that's kind of picking on Christians, but it's in a lot of spaces. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to relay here, okay? It's fear, period. It's fear, period. And here's a kicker. Take it right from the book itself. I do not give you the spirit of fear, but I give you the spirit of a sound mind. That is a quote from the Bible. And so the teachings that are also fear-based are kind of contradictory to the understanding of, if you are coming from the understanding of the origin, of the source of all life, of all consciousness, giving you a sound mind, then there's going to be more of a connection flow with love. There's going to be more of a remembrance tied up in love, wrapped up in love, presented in love. So that would be a little take on it, light language. And also you can tone. If anybody hears like, oh, I really like the idea of moving energy, but I'm not ready I don't have my languages, or light language isn't coming through me. This is a fantastic way to start. When you take a shower or you're in your car, those are two spaces people feel comfortable, right? Okay? So you try just toning, any tone that comes to mind. I like, and I don't know this will pick it up right, because sometimes audios click it out when it's a music sound, but I'll try, okay? So this is just a regular tone, but it moves energy. I can tone forever. But here's the thing. If you make a sound like that and you're holding the intention of moving the energy, that sound is moving through the field all around you and your body, because it's coming from within your form. It's moving the energy. It's clearing the energy. It's shifting the energy, okay? It's all about frequency. It's all about vibration. It's all about energy. These are like the keys to it all, And what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves the opportunity to start utilizing the keys. We've got them in our own beings. We've got the keys. And so we're allowing ourselves to step into those spaces of us more and more.
Thank you. Even when you're chanting Om, you can feel that cosmic vibration, right?
Yes, exactly.
You ever read the Bhagavad Gita?
I have not.
Well,
I should. Should I?
Yeah, when we click off, I'll show you a good copy, because I love the Bhagavad Gita. It means the song of the Lord or song of God, depending. That's why you see Krishna always with the flute. I think you would really love it, because it even talks about how we don't die.
I love it. Yeah.
So
that's beautiful. I'll have to read that.
I'm going to end it with some of your words. I found a quote online from you. The human body is designed as an instrument of light through sound. The entire universe is a grand orchestra playing the song of creation. Garris, many people can read the music, very few hear the melody, and fewer still can sing the song. You do all three, so thank you for coming on Broader Lens Podcast.
Oh my goodness, what a quote to end with. That was perfect. I love it. Thank you for having me. This has been a joyous space. Blessings on you and your outreach and all the ways in which you are being you. Thank you for your presence. And to all who are watching and all the ways we're being the new humans, thank you all. Thank you.
And I will put up your all your links when I upload this video. So thank you. Namastizzle.
Just know we out here. Know we out here working in a major way. Had to speak on it just to make a break. Any given subject, know we make a way. Time to level up on a day-to-day. Know we out here working for the greater good. Expand your mind, broaden your lens the way you should. From the stars to the galaxy to speak on spirituality. Higher understanding for the neighborhood.